Good Friday morning. We got snow. Not a ton, at least not yet. We're supposed to get more this weekend, but we did get snow. And the girls are not happy about it. But then they never are when it snows. They don't like to walk in it. If it gets bad, I'll clear a spot for them. But there's still some places where there is no snow that they can walk. So for now, they're just gonna have to suck it up. It is daily chore time. Time to collect the eggs. Let's see what we got here. Got a few in there, and a few in there. Nope, not any in there. They're not using the baskets these days, and they decided they don't want to use that box. I just never know. They go back and forth, but I guess if they're going to use those two, that's fine. I gotta get my chores done. Scrape the droppings boards. Now, keeping chickens in the wintertime, it's really not as problematic as keeping them in the summertime, because chickens do better in cold than they do in heat. In the wintertime, they fluff out their feathers and they trap air between their feathers and their body. And so with a chicken, their resting temperature is about 105 degrees. So you can imagine if they trap that between their feathers and their body, they stay pretty warm. I will only add any kind of warmth. It has to get below 0, and it's going to be just long enough to kind of warm up the inside so they can get in, trap some of that warm air under their feathers, and that should be good. You know, I just don't want to risk a fire in the chicken coop. It's not worth it. They do okay. I've got most of it insulated, but I do have ventilation because the biggest offender for chickens in the winter is condensation. Condensation will make them cold, and that's not something that you can prevent unless you've got ventilation. If your coop is snug and tight, completely tight, with no ventilation, you're going to have chickens that are going to have a hard time in the cold and in the heat, both. So make sure you've got some adequate ventilation. Watch the surfaces, see if they're starting to develop any kind of moisture. If you've got windows, check the glass to see if it's got moisture built up on it. You just want to avoid that condensation. That's the big thing. Second thing that I do that's important for keeping chickens in the wintertime is I use the deep litter method. I've talked about that on other videos. You can use whatever kind of bedding material you want, but you want a good 6 inches of material on the floor of the coop. The chickens will kind of compact it down. You may have to add to it once or twice through the year, but pretty much 6 inches should get you through the year. I use pine shavings, and I use the fine pine shavings, but you can also use the flake. It doesn't matter that much. The other thing that I do is I have droppings boards. Instead of just letting the droppings fall into the bedding, which they will anyway, but for the most part they land on the droppings boards, and then I scrape them every day. That cuts down on a lot of moisture, and it also keeps the coop smelling good. You want to feed them a good quality feed that has at least 16% protein in the wintertime. They need that extra protein for laying eggs and for keeping themselves warm. You're going to also want to add scratch grains or corn, or both really, as a ration, not necessarily mixed in with their feed. You can do it that way, but I just toss it to them, and it keeps them busy, keeps them entertained. If it's just in their feed, then they kind of get bored through the day, so this way that kind of breaks up the day for them. But I do it late enough in the day that they're able to have that in their crop when they roost for the night, and then as they digest it, they're creating heat. So that's one thing you can do that really helps chickens in the winter. Something else I've heard people do, and I've done it a little bit but not as much as other people do, is they add red pepper to their ration. You can do that, you can try it. I mean, it's definitely going to add a little heat inside their body, no question about that. And it also, if it's cayenne pepper, red pepper flakes, things like that, that's going to also add some vitamin C. So that's good. You're going to want to make sure that they have a nice dry area outside the coop. That's not always easy to do in everybody's circumstances, but if you can create a covered area where they can get out of the coop and be outside but not be in the snow, that's going to help. I have a big covered run, and so we solved that problem years ago. They don't necessarily stay out of the snow, but they prefer not to be in it, and especially when it is snowing, they will be out of it. I also have a few areas, in the yard where we have little sheltered spots, like this table here. They get underneath that table and turn around like that. They'll go under the table. It's probably going to start to get snow under it as we get some blowing snow, but for now it's a good little sheltered spot. And then there's also our patio. We have a table over there they get underneath, but for the most part, when the weather is bad, they stay in the run, and it's a big enough run that they can all be out here and not mess with each other. You can see all this litter on the run floor. It is a dirt floor underneath, and this is all the bedding that was in their coop through the summer. And I've got 3 feeding stations set up because we have enough chickens that they'll fight with each other if you don't have enough spread out. Something else that they need, even when it's cold, is they need fresh water. And their water needs to be changed again. I change it every day. But this is a heated dog bowl that will keep their water from freezing. That's a big challenge for a lot of chicken keepers, is that they can't seem to keep their water from freezing if they keep it outside. And if you keep it inside the coop, then you're adding to the condensation problem. And I don't want to add to the condensation problem. I also don't want little critters going in my coop thinking they're going to get chicken feed. I keep it out here so it keeps critters out of the coop. I also have an automatic door that lets them out in the morning, closes them up at night, so I don't forget and have it be really cold and have cold air blasting through there. You can see they like to be in their run, and they don't like to be in the snow. They have worn a very particular path. As the snow builds up, I'll come out here with a shovel and a broom and clear a path for them. The quail, I'm going to have to brush that snow off so that it doesn't harden into ice. But I keep this little trapdoor window open so that they have ventilation. Because for quail it's the same thing. Only with quail, it is much more important that they not have a draft. They are wild birds, so the cold doesn't bother them as much as it does the chickens, but it can still affect them if they don't have a way to get out of it. And drafts are actually a bigger offender for quail. You don't want to have a draft on the quail where they sleep. Other than that, your chickens should be good through the winter. They don't need a whole lot of special treatment. So let's just break it back down again. No condensation, so make sure you have good ventilation in your coop. A good quality feed with protein. Extra like corn and scratch grains in the evening before they roost up. Water that isn't frozen but is clean water on a regular basis. And make sure that the coop is closed up at night, and provide them a place where they can be out of the coop but not exposed to the weather. You do those things and your chickens will be fine through the winter. Oh, one other little thing. Your roosting bars. We've used 2x4s, and we've got them on the flat side. The wide side is where their feet will rest. You can see I haven't scraped the droppings board yet. Chickens poo when they sleep. But what they'll do is they'll rest their feet on the droppings board flat, and then they'll cover them with their body. And if you have a narrow droppings board, then their nails, their toes are going to hang over it, and they may not be covered, and that could cause frostbite. Yes, chickens can get frostbite, and it will hurt. So you can avoid frostbite by taking all those measures I talked about, and by providing nice, wide, flat roosting bars for them, so they can cover their feet completely with their body, and then they'll tuck their head down underneath their feather, and they're good to go for the night. So now it's time for me to get my chores done. Now, it occurred to me as I'm cleaning off the quail enclosure, a lot of people do use these high tunnels for chickens, and you can. If you get snow of any accumulation, you are going to want to clean it off, because it will get heavy, especially if it melts and then refreezes. So that's something you're going to want to take into account. If you do a high tunnel, keep the snow cleared off. Scrape. Now all I need to do is just throw some diatomaceous earth on there, make it nice and dry, and I'll rake it nice and fluffy and gather the eggs. All right. Hey, you ready for some corn? Come on. Have some corn. And it's starting to snow again. I'm coming, littles. So I have to take care of those littles separate from the big girls. Some black oil sunflower seeds. And scratch grains.
Okay. That should make it so everybody can get some. Even the littles are in there. And this is not all for them. This is also for the quail. Come on, littles. Come on, littles. Come on. Come over here in the grass. Come on. Come on. Yeah. Oh, I forgot my broom. I better get it or the littles are gonna be pestered. Are you all done? Huh, Tinsel? Are you done? Your feet are cold, huh? The sun is going down. It's time for them to finish their treats and start heading into bed pretty soon. Quail are good. They're high and dry. No drafts. They got good ventilation on the leeward side of their enclosure. So we'll give them some scratch so they can do the same thing as the chickens and generate some heat through the night. Looks like the girls are getting done. They're thinking they're coming over here, but the broom keeps them away. All done, Subaki? And Lady Sunati? I'm not surprised Soccer is still at it. Well, do I have to say it? We got snow. And lots of it. I don't know. They were only saying 1 to 3 inches at the most. I think we got a little bit more than that. I don't know. What do you think? 3, 4 inches? Maybe a little more? Can't quite tell. I'm not a meteorologist. Well, girls, what do you think? For some of you, this is your first big snowfall. What do you think about it, huh? Not real impressed? What do you think, Taeyang? So, now it's time to clear the run, get all the snow out of the little paths that they use.
Winter is upon us again. Well, chores are all done. Paths are made for the chickens. And the dogs, I guess. Everybody's been given their supplemental scratch and corn and seeds and mealworms. The water's been freshened. But I did want to mention something about chicken keeping in cold temperatures. We're supposed to get down to 8 degrees tonight. Now, when I was outside, it was cold. I'm in the coop, in the front part of the coop. It's not even insulated. It's pretty comfortable. And then, when I go inside the coop itself, it's actually pretty comfortable. And there's already a chicken. That's Mochi. She's ready for bed. She is done for the day. She does not want to deal with this cold anymore. But as you can see, she is sitting on her feet, covering her feet completely. And she is otherwise comfortable. I wanted to mention about supplemental heat. Your chickens don't need it. They do just fine without it. Now, I do have a couple of heat lamps set up, ready to go, if the temperatures drop below 0. We're not expecting it, and so I'm not going to worry too much about it. And if it happens, it happens. But if it does drop below 0, then I'll come in and I'll introduce a little bit of extra heat for them to kind of trap underneath their feathers. But I won't leave it on for all that long. I do have those Christmas lights that come on in about middle of the night. They will introduce a certain amount of heat on their own. Not a ton, but enough. But if I were to routinely heat their coop, oh yeah, they'd love it. They'd be all nice and toasty and comfortable, and they probably would never want to leave their coop in the wintertime. But the danger in that is that if they, for some reason, if the coop loses power or the light burns out on the heating element, or power goes out around town, which, you know, it can do when there's a bad enough storm, you can lose power. And there's been times when cities have lost power for a week or more, certainly for a day or two. If your chickens are not acclimated to the cold temperatures, and then you have that happen, you're going to have two choices. You either have to hustle all your chickens into your house and find a way to warm them as well as you, or you're going to lose chickens. I don't want to risk that. I also don't want to risk having a fire in my chicken coop, which every year there's lots of reports of coop fires because people have left heating lamps on. That's why I don't leave it on for very long, and I watch it. I don't ever leave it unattended. Even though it's a safe heat lamp and it's designed for being around chickens and all their dust and feathers, and it has a shield on it. I just worry about things like that. And yeah, I do have the Christmas lights that come on in the middle of the night, but you know, they are not a big source of heat, and they're also not a fire hazard, and they're so wired tightly up that they're not going anywhere. But they also aren't going to make my chickens lose their acclimation to the cooler temperatures. Like I said, chickens do better in the winter than they do in the summer. I'll talk more about summer, taking care of chickens in the summer, when it gets to be spring. But right now, everybody is facing, how am I going to get my chickens through the winter? Like everything I already listed, the don'ts are: don't heat your coop, don't leave big air gaps for drafts in your coop, don't leave your chickens in an area that isn't clear of snow, don't and I know a lot of people do this, but for me, this is a big don't. Don't keep water in the coop. It introduces condensation. And there's plenty of people that say, oh, I've never had a problem with that before. Well, I know plenty of people that have had a problem with it. So I would much rather not be one of the ones that do, instead of risking and hoping I'm one of the ones that doesn't. Other than that, chickens do really well in the cold temperatures. You're going to be surprised. So if you follow those little guidelines that I've put out, I think you'll be as successful as I've been in getting your chickens safely and comfortably through the cold, snowy winters like we have up in the Rocky Mountains. So, 8 degrees tonight, I'm not adding additional heat. They'll be just fine. Like I said, it's comfortable in there. I could sleep in there. It's comfortable, and it's already in the teens right now. So it might get a little chilly during the night, but I think they're going to be just fine, just comfortable. I mean, right now it's comfortable, and the pop door is still open. That's going to close at about a little after sundown when they've all gone inside. So that's going to cut down on the cold too. So, that's the best advice I can give you. So good luck with your chickens. Good luck with the winter. I hope you're enjoying the snow and that it's a positive and not a negative. I'm a big Christmas fan. I have my own Christmas radio channel. If you want to check it out, it's on live365.com. It's Christmas every day. I also have a Facebook page, so you can find the link to the radio station on my Facebook page for Christmas every day. I'll link it on my Real Life Mom Facebook page, so it's easier to find, but it's really pretty easy, and it's free, and it's 24 hours a day Christmas music. So enjoy the winter, enjoy the holidays. I'll be posting more probably over the next few days. So have a good one.